everyone. I'm Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Her podcast. We are joined by Rachel, and she is a clinical psychologist, and she has a body of positive activists and passionate about Peloton. And she's a writer on it, and she is like so passionate about it, and I really love it. And she has a mission to change the face of fitness with her upcoming series, and she's going to be challenging other stereotypes, advocating for sizes, inclusive, and leadership in the fitness world, and also proving that it is a movement and it is for everybody. And let's dive into our whole conversation with her. And hi, Rachel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
So tell me, what started you with this journey?
So, I've been a psychologist for 20 years now, and throughout that time, I've always worked with people with eating disorders, disordered eating, people just who are trying to heal their relationship with food in their body. And one of the things that's come up so much in my work is that when people are in larger bodies, there's this sense that they're not included, that the world isn't built for them. And that's especially true in fitness spaces where the message is usually that if you're in a larger body, that's the quote unquote before picture. And that the only reason to do movement or engage in fitness is to lose weight or to look different. And there's not a lot of representation of
Mm-mm.
people who are in plus size bodies who are living full lives, not trying to change their body, but do want to be active. And so, as somebody who does live in a plus size body, one of the things I've really been setting out on this mission is to offer more of that representation of somebody who can engage in movement and is not trying to change the size or shape of my body.
Yes, what I love about this the most is what I've noticed, because with you being a psychologist as well, it's like really helpful for you to help other people. And like I could say me personally, say for instance, I lost my mom and my husband. And during that phase, I gained a lot of weight. I had gained weight like never before. However, you have people that will fat shame you and say, "Oh, you're gaining weight," or they won't like you, or because you gain weight or you look big and everything. But it's a lot of people that don't know the underlining behind why people are heavy, or they may be naturally heavy. It may be genetic. What angles are you going to actually help people understand that more and be more considerate of people's feelings when it comes to fat shaming, especially on social media?
I know there's so much weight stigma and fat shaming that happens. And one of the things that's always so curious to me is why do people care so much about other people's bodies, right?
Yes.
That everybody has body autonomy. People can do what they want to do with their own bodies, but they don't have a right to then judge other people. And people are in bigger bodies for many reasons. And the main reason is that bodies just come in all different shapes and sizes, but it's nobody else's business, right? Nobody else needs to try to figure out the why or judge what our bodies look like. So that's the thing that I am constantly saying, that it doesn't matter why your body is bigger, if that's just your natural body size or if there's some other contributing factor, that nobody else has the right to comment on it. And so I try to help people build community around them that will support them in feeling like more confident in their body and feeling more of a sense that they get to take up space, that they're not wrong for being in a bigger body and they don't need to be pursuing thinness.
Wow. So, when did you first start noticing the lack of representation in plus size instructors? And how did that realization impact your personality?
Yeah, it's a good question. So For me, I started riding Peloton when the pandemic started, and
Okay.
everything shut down, and I had been going to the gym, and then I couldn't do that anymore. So I got a Peloton and loved it, actually more than I ever thought that I would. But I noticed none of the instructors look like me. All of the bike instructors are in smaller bodies, and they're great instructors, but it's frustrating when there's no representation, and there's certain ways that I need to adjust my body on the bike that the instructors don't understand because they don't have the lived experience of being in a larger body. And so over time, I was like getting more and more frustrated.
Mhm.
And I've done so much work on my own relationship with my body that as I was getting frustrated and wishing there was a higher weight bike instructor, it occurred to me that why couldn't that person be me? And so that's when I started learning more and pursuing my certification in indoor cycling and trying to get more attention around this mission. And I think in the way that it's changed my personality is that it's given me a lot more confidence to be visible as a plus
Mhm.
size person because I think we're often taught to hide or try not to be seen. And this has given me a lot more permission to just put myself out there.
Wow. That's a lot. So, as far as many people feel like intimidated to even join a workout space, if they don't see themselves represented, what do they say to someone who feels like fitness isn't for them?
I think the message when we don't see representation is that you're not welcome here. Right? If the only people leading classes are in smaller bodies or the people at the front of the room are in smaller bodies, the message to people in larger bodies is that you're not welcome.
Mhm.
And so in order for people to feel welcome in any kind of fitness space, there not only needs to be representation, but the language and how we talk about bodies and how we talk about movement needs to shift. And so we need to start saying things like, fitness doesn't have a shape or size. You can't tell somebody's level of cardiovascular fitness by looking at their body. That we don't know what bodies are capable of by looking at the size or shape of them. That people, there's so many reasons to do fitness that are not about burning calories or losing weight. And those are the things that we need to be focused on in order for people to feel more welcome in fitness spaces.
Yeah. So like how do you address the misconception when the body size and is an indicator of health and fitness ability?
We talk about it and start educating people that we know that people can be fit in all different shapes and sizes. I mean,
Yeah.
even you look at the Olympics, and there are people in plus size bodies who are engaged in sports that require such intense physical fitness. And we can look in all different areas that people in plus size bodies can do pretty much anything and be really fit. And so we have to change how we're talking about it and not say things like, no pain, no gain, or like,
Yeah.
you know, sweat is what calories leaving the body, or all that kind of, BS that people say often in fitness spaces. That we need to talk about fitness in a different way that sends the message and a reminder that people can be fit in all sizes and shapes. And you don't know if somebody does fitness based on their body size, right? Somebody can be in a smaller body, and that doesn't mean that they are fit or that they engage in movement at all.
That's true. That is so true. So how can movement be healing for those recovering from eating disorders or even body image struggles?
It's complicated. It's
Yeah.
one of the most complicated parts, I think, of healing from an eating disorder or body image struggles. first, what I always like to say is that movement is not a moral obligation. People do not have to engage in movement, and choosing not to do fitness or movement is just as valid of a choice as choosing to do it. And
Mm.
I think that's the place to start, because if we don't have permission not to do it, then how do we choose to do it?
Mm. So tell us a little bit more about Revolutionize Your Ride and what can people expect from your upcoming video series?
So, revolutionize your ride. I'm talking about pretty much what we're discussing, the ways that you can show up to fitness and the ways that fitness can be healing, and to talk about the connection between what are the ways that fitness can help us that isn't about being focused on weight loss or burning calories. So things like helping with mood. We know that fitness can be really powerful for people who struggle with depression. It can be really helpful in getting like just anger out. I know for me, if I'm really like just have that pent up like anger or frustration, doing
Mm.
movement is really helpful. I mean, it can help with cardiovascular health if that's something that people are wanting to focus on. And so, Revolutionize Your Ride is talking about shifting the focus to those things and talking about how movement can have a place in our lives that's
Yeah.
different from the way that it's been viewed historically.
Wow. So you've mentioned like wanting to create rides that affirm like worthiness, being authentic, vulnerability. What does that look like in a cycling class?
hmm So it looks like a lot of permission. It looks like, you know, does this feel like the right day to be doing this ride? Like, check in with your body and how are you feeling today? And are you here because you want to be here because your body is wanting to move, or are you here because there's, that disordered voice in the back of your mind that's saying you have to be here or you can't skip a day? And if you're not feeling it today, get off the bike.
Mm.
There's no shame in that. Like, really kind of checking in. And then it's a lot of invitation, that there's the invitation to go faster or increase the resistance on the bike. And there's the invitation not to. So it's really helping people to have the autonomy to check in with their own bodies. It's also giving some modifications. So,
Mhm.
one of the things the instructors will often talk about is how the body should be on the bike. So, they'll talk about like knees tracking forward, or they'll talk about like the way that your back and body should be like bent towards the handlebars. But for a lot of people in a bigger body, that's not going to work, right? I can't track my knees forward because I'd have to press my thighs together so hard that it's not sustainable. Or if I don't adjust the way that my belly is, I can't lean forward the way that they're suggesting. And so it's offering a lot of those modifications so that the bike can be comfortable no matter what size body you're in.
Mhm. So, what are some of the biggest barriers higher people face in the fitness industry, and how can we break them down?
I think probably the biggest barriers are, the lack of representation, and then a lot of fitness spaces are really hostile towards
Oh,
higher weight people. Like, I have had so many clients who have had experiences of being fat shamed in fitness spaces.
wow.
And, or like I've had this experience where I'd be outside, like I remember years ago, I was outside riding a bike, and as I'm riding, somebody's like yelling out of the car window about, the size of my body. And if fitness spaces are hostile like that, why would
Mhm.
anybody in a higher weight body want to go into that space? which means
Yeah.
the people at the top, the people who own the gym, the people who own the company, have to completely shift how they're training their staff or their instructors. They need to have equipment that supports higher weight bodies. So, for example, I was buying a weight bench for my house recently. And when I'm looking at these weight benches, some of them, the weight capacity is so low that it wouldn't be safe for my body. And so I had to make sure I purchased a weight bench that had a high enough weight capacity that it will support my body. So if somebody walks into a gym and can't trust that the equipment is going to support their body, then that's not a welcoming place for them.
Yeah.
And so the people who have the most power, the people at the top, need to change the way they're marketing, the way that they're talking about fitness. And then that trickles down to the instructors, the staff, the trainers, and all of that.
Mm. That's a lot. So do you think do you really think that the industry is truly ready for a shift towards the body inclusive leadership, or will it take more activism and persistence?
I think it's going to take more activism. I think that there are spaces that are definitely ready. I see more like plus size instructors or trainers now than I did before.
Okay.
Not within Peloton, unfortunately, but just in general in the world, there are more plus size trainers and instructors. But I think we've got a ways to go.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, there's going to need to be a lot more activism and a really big shift in the industry as a whole.
Wow. So you're also a single mom of 12-year-old twins and a soccer mom sometimes. Times for the teens. How do you balance the motherhood work, activism, and also self-care?
Yeah. Yes, my boys turned 13 this summer, so now I officially have
Oh,
teenagers
wow,
in the house.
teenagers.
Yes. And yeah, between them, they play on 4 different soccer teams plus all
Wow.
their other activities. So I spend a lot of time on soccer fields and a lot of time in the car driving them. Um, there's no perfect balance. And I think I'm always careful about naming that because I think there's so much pressure, especially on women, to like somehow figure it all out and make time for everything. And it's not possible. I mean, not if you want to get some sleep to
Right,
make
right.
time for everything. So I do the best I can. I try to find pockets of time to get things done. I will do sometimes like in between soccer games. If I'm sitting around, that's a
Mhm.
time I'll get some work done.
Yeah.
I try like they go to practice. So now that they're old enough that I can just drop them off at their practices, that's a pocket of time to get things done. And I see clients during the day when they're in school. So I'm really lucky in that way that I can kind of adjust my schedule to work for their school hours. And my main self care is riding the Peloton. So that's kind of nice that that works in. I do that in the morning before like the whole day gets chaotic. And I also really prioritize staying in contact with community because I don't think we can do this kind of work unless we have that community.
Yes, that is so true. So what message do you want your kids to take from seeing you fight for this change in the fitness world?
Hmm. I hope that my kids, and I think they have internalized from the time that they were really young that bodies come in all shapes and sizes. And so for them, it's just an extension of that. They've learned to identify weight stigma and fat phobia all around them. So, like, I took one of my kids to the doctor recently, and the doctor made a fat phobic comment. And when we got out to the parking lot, my son's like, Mom, that doctor was really fat phobic. And I'm like, yeah, that doctor was really fat phobic. And so I want my kids to pick up on when there's oppression happening. And I think they have learned to do that. And because of that, they know that people in plus size bodies can do everything. And they notice when there's not representation. So, what I want them to hear and what I've taught them all along and have continued to teach them is that if you like fitness and you enjoy it and it's fun for you, that's great. Like they love soccer. They don't think about it as like exercise or anything like that. And so I want them to have that understanding that people can choose fitness and it's not about shrinking. It's not
Mhm.
about punishment. It's not about like guilt or shame or anything like that. And
Mhm.
that people just are in all different size bodies and they know what I'm up to. Like they know my
That's
whole
nice.
mission with Peloton. Actually, when one kid asked me yesterday, "How's it going, Mom?
Aw, that's
Have they
sweet.
noticed you yet?" so, um, yeah, so it's really sweet. And kids, I think if we have these conversations with kids, they have an easier time understanding than adults do.
Okay. That's sweet. So, for someone listening right now who who feels like they're unseen and in the fitness industry, what's the first step they can take towards reclaiming their space?
It's a really good question. I think the first place is for them to think about where would they feel most comfortable. So maybe that would mean doing something at home
Yeah.
where there's nobody around and then building from there. There are a lot of plus size instructors and fitness coaches now, and a lot of them work virtually. And so that's something I recommend often to people that if they're if they're uncomfortable or hesitant going into public spaces, they can work virtually with a fitness instructor who's in a plus size body and who's going
Mm.
to know how to support a person in a plus size body and doing all different kinds of movement. And I think that is often the entry point that makes people feel a little safer and more comfortable kind of venturing into fitness if it's something new for them.
Mm. So, how can our listeners join your mission and support the Revolutionize Your Ride?
So I am on Instagram. That's where I do most of my talking about this. And the more that we let Peloton know and other fitness companies know that we want representation, the better, right? These companies, their bottom line matters to them. And one of the points I keep trying to make is that this is a whole group of people and market that
Mm.
if plus size people felt welcome, they'd spend money, right? Like
Yeah.
if I have so many people I know who are like, if you were instructor, I'd buy a Peloton. And
Oh,
so I think the ways that people can be supportive is to let companies know that they want to see that representation, tagging Peloton, but any company like to let them know, hey, there's a market out here,
mhm.
and we would spend money on your product if there was that representation.
Yeah. So if Peloton called you tomorrow and said, Dr. Rachel, we're here to hire you, what's the first like ride that you will want to teach and why?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, I think I would probably start. Well, the very first ride I think I'd do would be like a get to know you ride because I would want people to start to understand who I am, what I stand for. And so I'd probably pick music that was really meaningful to me and talked about self acceptance and talked about like body image and things like that. Um, because I want to be able, like, Peloton is so focused on community, and so I would want to start building community by letting people know what I stand for and what I represent. And then from there, I'd have so much fun planning all different kinds of rides.
That is amazing. So, how can people get in contact with you and connect with you to even utilize the services that you do have?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm on Instagram. It's at Dr. Rachel Millner is my main Instagram. I also have a second account that's at plus size Peloton ride. And then my practice website, so where I do like my clinical work and where if people wanted to work for in therapy with me or some of the therapists in my practice, the website is www.rachelmilnertherapy.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I really appreciate you for being on my podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I love this conversation and appreciate the really thoughtful questions.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Life Heard Podcast. Make sure you listen on YouTube and also you can subscribe on all major platforms. Thank you.